After the regular season, Black Monday is a day where we see a ton of head coaches get fired from their job. So with that said, in today's video, I want to look at every single job opening open in the NFL and rank them from the best opportunity to the worst opportunity and talk about how we got there with those teams. We'll also talk about some potential candidates that those teams could hire. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're new. Let's hop into it. Now, as of right now, there are 6 job opportunities open in the NFL, and we are going to begin with at number 6. We're going to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. So as we all know, the Las Vegas Raiders had an abysmal season this year, right? And it all starts from the last offseason where they decided to go all in on this quick turnaround approach, bringing in guys like Geno Smith, adding an Ashton Jeanty in the draft, moving off of some of the older defensive pieces, bringing in some younger talent, having a nice draft class, and then, of course, bringing in Pete Carroll. The thought process of adding a Geno Smith and adding a Pete Carroll was, we're going to get 2 guys that are veterans, have been there, done that, have made the playoffs. Pete Carroll has won a championship. Geno Smith's a veteran in the league. They're getting up there in age, so they're not going to be here for the long haul, but they're going to help us get to that next stage as a program. I genuinely believe that this Pete Carroll-Geno Smith marriage in Las Vegas was meant and designed to be sort of a 3-year transition period, where in the first year you're trying to compete for a division title or you're just trying to make it into the wild card. Year 2, kind of the same thing, and then you're going to draft a quarterback. You let that young quarterback sit behind Geno Smith for a year or 2, and then in like 2028 or 29, that young quarterback takes over. We hire a new, younger head coach, and it's all fine and dandy. But as we all know, Pete Carroll stepped in, Geno Smith stepped in, and put together one of the most ugly seasons in Las Vegas history. The team went 3-14. They ended up with the number 1 overall pick. Pete Carroll just got fired, and it feels like pretty quickly that Geno Smith and a decision will be made there, whether to cut him, trade him, or just bench him outright. With the number 1 overall pick, you're likely going to take either Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, or maybe Ty Simpson if he were to go, but it probably will end up being Fernando Mendoza. So it's going to be probably a whole new roster this offseason, a new head coach. Now, there's a lot to look forward to with this Raiders team, and it's not like they don't have things going their way. The reason why they're at my number 6 is because they have a ton of big-time needs. Quarterback, offensive line, receiver, defensive line, linebackers, corners, maybe even some safeties. They basically need depth and pieces in almost every single major position. The only things they really have down is running back, tight end. If you keep Max Crosby, then you have him. You have a couple younger, talented pieces that you drafted last year. But in general, it's a horrendous roster. Now, with that said, though, they do have a ton of money in cap space this offseason, so you can start to add a ton of pieces through free agency, and you're going to have the number 1 pick, which does make the job a little bit more enticing. If you are a younger head coach, if you can get the thumbs up from the general manager or ownership and say, hey, give me 3 to 4 years, I'm going to turn this team around, but just understand that we're not going to be a great football team next year. If the Raiders can understand that, then I think this job could be enticing for some people out there because you have a ton of money, you don't have a lot of contracts you're holding on to, and you're going to have the number 1 pick where you can take your quarterback and kind of attach your coaching job with that young quarterback. In addition to having the money in terms of having the number 1 pick, you also have an asset in Max Crosby that if you trade him away, you could potentially be looking at even more first-round picks right there. So there's a lot to look forward to this offseason for the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think they're going to be a good team next year, but this job is in last place for a reason, just because of how many massive gaping holes they have on this roster. In terms of what I think they'll do at head coach, if we're reading this correctly, this is from Sports Illustrated. This is from Peter Dewey. This was made about an hour ago. Kind of giving you an idea as to the odds via DraftKings Sportsbook, not sponsored. Clint Kubiak plus 300, Kevin Stefanski plus 500, Joe Brady plus 750, Mike McCarthy plus 800. A lot of the typical names we've kind of heard throughout the offseason. It's kind of a difficult one to pick here for Las Vegas because it's like, okay, do I want to go with a younger head coach? Do I want to go with an established head coach? Do I want to go with an offensive guy, a college guy, a defensive guy, or just kind of a culture builder type of person? That is kind of where you have to figure it out. I do believe with Las Vegas, you can't just go out there and get a dude that isn't a fiery character. I think you have to find somebody that can set and establish a culture that's going to take this team away from what has happened the past few years, where you go from having obviously Pete Carroll, then last year Antonio Pierce, and then Josh McDaniels, and John Gruden and Jack Del Rio. You know, John Gruden kind of had the personality that fit this team, but obviously the off the field stuff kind of ruined his tenure. Josh McDaniels had, you know, a great offensive identity, and it's great for the New England Patriots, but it just didn't work over here. And from what I heard, he was kind of a douchebag. And then Antonio Pierce, he just didn't have the coaching experience. He might have had a good culture, and he might have been, you know, somebody that kind of fit Las Vegas, but in terms of building schematics and being a guy that can go out there and win the X's and O's, that just wasn't really what Pierce was doing well. So I think you have to find somebody that can kind of mesh the X's and O's with also setting a culture. And I think that for me brings up a guy in Jesse Minter, who I think can establish a nice culture for this organization while helping them build the X's and O's of their defense and starting to build the identity that way. I don't love the idea of Kevin Stefanski. Clint Kubiak could be interesting just because I love his offensive game plans. I think he's one of the smartest offensive minds out there. If you're looking for a guy that can make your offense super powered, and with Fernando Mendoza, Genty Bowers, I think Kubiak could make a ton of sense. So those would be my top guys. If you're going to go towards the college level, I mean, obviously you're going to look at Marcus Freeman. I think that checks out a little bit. One more name, if you want to stick with defense, Brian Flores could give you a really good culture while also helping your defense out. I like Brian Flores quite a bit there too. But moving on to number 5, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns have moved on from Kevin Stefanski after a kind of an up and down tenure with the team. I say up and down because there were some really good years throughout there. Obviously, the first year you go 11-5. Then the next year, 8-9. I mean, you were kind of staying afloat for the first few years, 11-6 in 2023. That was the Joe Flacco year. And then, of course, the past 2 years, you've won 8 total games and have not been able to figure out that offense. That's kind of been I guess the Achilles heel of Kevin Stefanski's tenure with Cleveland. You did not ever have the offensive side figured out, and that's really held that team back from ever being able to seriously contend in a tough AFC. Now, there is a lot of nice things to work with this team. Like, this team has legitimate pieces to look forward to in the future. Myles Garrett, obviously, they had a brilliant draft class. Quinshawn, they brought in Isaiah Bond. He's worked out nicely. You have Carson Schwessinger, like Denzel Ward, Mason Graham. There's a lot of young pieces to work with. I think for me, the reason why I have this job at 5 is for a number of reasons. Number one, you're not in a position this year to take a quarterback in this draft class. So you're going to go into your first season with either Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, maybe Deshaun Watson, but boy, that would be a terrible way to start your tenure. Or probably a free agent quarterback like Malik Willis. Maybe you make a trade for Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, something along those lines. And none of those options really give me a ton of faith and confidence that in year 1 of this young head coach, you're going to be able to turn it around. And then in addition to not having an answer at quarterback, you're also looking at an offense here that needs kind of a full rebuild. The offensive line is old, and you probably need 5 starters, like genuinely speaking, over the course of the next few seasons. Your receiving core is one of the worst in the NFL. Jerry Jeudy's abysmal. You got to get rid of him. Your tight end's great. Harold Fannin. You also have some great running backs here as well that make you very excited. But yeah, you're looking at quarterback, offensive line, and wide receiver. 3 massive positions. And then on defense, you have a number of guys that are in their prime and ready to try and go all in for a championship. I'm talking about Myles Garrett. I'm talking about Grant Delpit, Tyson Campbell, Denzel Ward, etc., 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 right? So you're looking at kind of a team here that has a number of things going their way, but also not like overly going their way either. And then when you look at their cap space in 2026 via over the cap, they're negative $12 million in cap. You have the Deshaun Watson contract under your books for the next several years. I mean, he's going to be making money on this team. Again, I'm not sure exactly how it works out, but he's going to have an impact on your roster for several more years until about like 2029 when you can start to really get off that contract. So yeah, you're going to kind of have this big backpack on your shoulder of like, I got to fix quarterback, receiver, offensive line, while having that Deshaun Watson contract still in the back of my head, having Myles Garrett be one of the highest paid players, and never being truly bad enough to actually go out there and get the number 1 overall pick. Now, a promising thing for that young potential head coach is that you are going to go into the 2027 NFL draft, likely with the top 10 pick in a draft class that is seemingly going to be much better than this year's draft class. So that can give you some hope. We're talking about Arch Manning. We'll see what happens with DJ Lagway, Dylan Raiola. If Dante Moore or Ty Simpson return to college, those guys. And then you obviously could expect one or two guys to kind of come out of nowhere and end up being NFL prospects. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But in terms of some actual candidates, this one's kind of tricky as well. So this is on Twitter. This is from Bovado. Again, I don't know if this is like legitimate odds, but we got guys like Jim Schwartz, Clint Kubiak, Robert Saleh, Tommy Rees, Bobby Slowick, McCarthy, Brian Flores, Brian Callahan. We got Deion Sanders right here. I don't know if those are actually like legitimate ones. I don't know if Bovado's like all this and that. It's not a DraftKings that came out with it. That all said, I don't hate some of the names that were mentioned there. I like Robert Saleh. I think that he could really give this defense, like truly speaking, you bring Robert Saleh in, I think that defense could be a top 5 unit if he can bring all his guys in. His issue is that he went to the New York Jets, had Zach Wilson, and would kind of fall into the same trap here with the Cleveland Browns. I kind of like the idea of bringing in like a Chris Shula with the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, I think he would bring over a good offensive coordinator, probably steal somebody from out Los Angeles, have that defensive personnel set up for success. I think Chris Shula makes the most sense for this team because you're going to be building around your defense and hoping just to find a quarterback that can get you home in 2027. Next up at number 4, let's talk about the Tennessee Titans. So obviously the past few years, the Tennessee Titans has been quite rough. Mike Vrabel was there from 2018 to 2023. He was awesome. He was great, led that team to a ton of success, won a coach of the year, multiple deep playoff runs. Then there was a dispute between the front office and Mike Vrabel that ultimately would lead to Brian Callahan taking the job. Brian Callahan went 4-19. They fired him. They then bring in Mike McCoy. I guess not bring in, but they promote Mike McCoy to be in the interim. And Mike McCoy was 2-9 the rest of the season. Probably not going to be their guy long term. Now, there's actually a lot of promising things with this Titans team. You have your franchise quarterback. You have like $90 million to work with in this year's draft. You went 3-14, so you're going to have a top 5 pick in this year's draft class, which means you're going to be able to add a top-notch receiver, a top-notch pass rusher, whatever you might want. And again, you have pieces to work with. Alec Ayomaner looks pretty good. Shamir Dike looks pretty good. You know, the offensive line could use some work, but Peter Skoronski's okay. Lloyd Cushenberry's fine. Defensively, you have Jeffrey Simmons, Devondre Sweat, Cedric Gray, Amani Hooker. This is not a great roster. Let's get that 100% out of the way. You're going to probably need a tackle this year, maybe next year. Running back, you have some pieces there, but are they there for the long haul? I'm not sure. Not a need this year, but maybe next year or the year after. You do need a number 1 receiver. You need a true pass rusher. You might need somebody to help in the secondary. Those are some big time needs, but unlike the Las Vegas Raiders, who are in kind of a similar situation with Tennessee, the Titans already have their proven franchise quarterback, and they have a ton of money, and they actually have a few pieces here and there. They just kind of have to put the pieces together, and I do believe that an excellent head coach could legitimately turn this team from, you know, kind of a bottom feeder into being somewhat competent within the next few years. So I don't think that they're a completely lost football team. Now, I do believe the question for Tennessee is, what do you really want with your head coach? Because you're not going to find somebody better than Mike Vrabel. So I think if you're a Titans fan, you just kind of have to get that whole Mike Vrabel thing over with. Like, I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan. I will forever be like, what if we had Luka Doncic? What if we did? He's not on the team, so we have to move on. Titans fans, kind of the same thing. You guys had Mike Vrabel. He's not there no more, so you kind of just have to move on. It sucks, but it is kind of what it is there. Now, this is via DraftKings. This was done on Saturday at 1 o'clock, so this is not completely updated, but here are some names to definitely look at, and I actually do kind of like these names. Matt Nagy, not a fan of that one. Robert Saleh, Mike McCarthy, Arthur Smith, not a fan of Arthur Smith either. Chris Shula, Mike Kafka, Clint Kubiak, Jeff Hafley, Joe Brady, Minter, Flores, Lou Anarumo. Yeah, some big time names here. Now, I kind of like some of these names here. Again, I don't hate the Robert Saleh one. If you want to build up this defense, he would actually have his franchise quarterback in Cam Ward. So if you hire a great offensive coordinator, I don't hate that one. If you're looking for stability, I actually don't hate the Mike McCarthy idea. Mike McCarthy could kind of be a transition coach where it's like, hey, we know you're not going to be here for the long haul, but can you be here for 3 to 4 years? Help us build our way towards being a playoff contender, and then we'll see what you can do once we get into the playoffs. Arthur Smith obviously had the ties with Tennessee a few years ago. I just don't think that he's a great head coach. We saw it with Atlanta. I don't think he's been a great offensive coordinator for Pittsburgh. I think he's really good with particular teams that have an identity, but I wouldn't want him here. Chris Shula, again, I think completely checks out. Mike Kafka would make some sense to me. I like the idea of either McCarthy or Robert Saleh here. I think that those actually do check out. There's things to work with here. This team is not completely void of talent. Again, you have your franchise quarterback and you have somebody to work with, and you're going to have a top 5 pick this year and probably a top 10 pick the year after. It could be a lot worse for Titans fans, so I actually don't necessarily hate this job. Hey guys, just going to jump in here real quick. If you're looking towards the offseason and towards the NFL draft, I have a podcast called First and 10. It is all about the draft, all about the offseason. We do content multiple times throughout the week. It's not just me. It's former NFL player Brandon Ross and fellow content creator Cade Rathbone. Link in the description, pinned comment. Let's get back to the video. Next up, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons at number 3. So the Atlanta Falcons completely just got rid of everybody, which, by the way, double thumbs up for me. The whole Terry Fontenot era was a complete disaster. I thought he was terrible for that team. Made several just baffling decisions. Not everything he did was bad, but the whole Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix Jr. saga, the trading of the first round pick, drafting Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and the Drake London one has worked out. Obviously, Bijan's worked out, but you don't draft running back that early when you're kind of rebuilding. It's worked out, so it's not the worst thing he's ever done. But the whole Kyle Pitts thing, stuff like that, he's just been terrible, right? You obviously had Arthur Smith a few years ago. He was as mediocre and middling that you can possibly get. Past few years, you had Raheem Morris, and while I think Morris has been good for the culture, has been good for the defense, has improved from last year to this year, I don't think he was ever going to be the guy that got them to that next step. I think he's a really good defensive coordinator that could succeed with the right roster, but Atlanta had such high expectations this year to make a playoff push. And when you're in a division that has the Carolina Panthers, who won, I think, 8 games this year, and you don't make the playoffs, it's a bad look for your franchise. It's a bad look for your coaching staff. So I completely understand why they did so. When you look at Atlanta, though, I think that it's a decent head coaching job. There's pieces to work with here. Drake London. We'll see what they decide to do with Pitts, Bijan, some guys on the offensive line. The defensive line is very exciting. You got to get bigger, a bit stronger, better run defenders, but you have some things there. Some guys in the secondary. This is not a bad roster by no means. Again, they should have probably been in the playoffs this year if they had a better head coach and a better quarterback. They didn't, obviously. So now you're entering into an offseason where it's like, okay, we had Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator. We brought in the opposite, Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator. Didn't work out. What do you go with now? I personally believe you should go back to an offensive mind. I think offensive minds are just typically better in the NFL, especially if you want to have a quick turnaround, what this team probably wants to have. Either that, or you're looking for a culture guy that just needs to hire the right OCs and DCs. Like, that would make some sense. The next head coach does have a massive question, though, and this is why they're at my number 3 and not a little bit higher. What do you do with your quarterbacks? Because Michael Penix Jr. was the highly drafted guy a few years ago, and he's injury prone. He's not the youngest prospect in the world. And when he was playing, while he showed flashes, he also showed, let's be honest, some not great play in there as well. And then you also have the massive contract of Kirk Cousins, and it's like, can we afford to cut Kirk Cousins or move off of Kirk Cousins? Number one, if you do cut him or trade him, you're going to have to eat some dead money. You have to figure out that stuff. But it's also like, if we get rid of Kirk Cousins, we're getting rid of a really good backup quarterback, especially for a team that has this young quarterback that has dealt with injuries throughout his career. So it's kind of like you sort of need Kirk Cousins if you want to have Michael Penix, but that Kirk Cousins guy is making a shit ton of money. It's not the greatest spot quarterback position wise. So either they are going to try to reset the quarterback room yet again, or they're going to try and work with the pieces you have there, which to me, if I'm a new head coach heading into this spot, that's not the most enticing thing in the world. I like the roster. I don't love the quarterback room, which that's the most important position in football. So in terms of some candidates for this position, this is via Yahoo Sports, and I think they got these numbers from Kaushi. Clint Kubiak at 32, Kevin Stefanski with 13, Mike McCarthy at 12, Nagy at 12, Brady at 11, Shula, Hafley, Minter. Kind of went through a number of those names already. I think this is a decent Clint Kubiak spot. I really do. I think Clint Kubiak can get the most out of these quarterbacks. We saw him with Derek Carr with the New Orleans, and then this year with Sam Darnold. I could see him coming in here and really reinventing this offense. I think he'd be incredible for Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. I think he would really open up this ground game and stick with it, feed those options and those weapons. And I think he'd also take advantage fully of Drake London. Like, we saw JSN take a massive step. Imagine what he can do with Drake London. And, you know, they're going to have to draft another receiver too. But if they bring back Kyle Pitts, like, I think that could be great for him as well. The question for Clint is going to be, Number one, do you want to leave Seattle? If you love Seattle so much, then just stay there. You have a good thing going on. Number two, you're going to get offers from probably almost every single team that has a job opening. So you kind of get your pick of the litter, and it's like, would I rather go here that has a good quarterback or here that has the better roster, but no better quarterback? That's the tough spot he's going to be at. So I like the idea of Clint Kubiak, though, if they can, obviously get him to be okay with the quarterback room. So Clint Kubiak to the Falcons, I think, checks out. Moving over to number two, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals. So I know the thought process right now is really Arizona's your number two spot out there. And I'm going to say, yeah, I think this team is really talented. Like, genuinely speaking, there's a lot of pieces to work with here. They just have a couple questions they have to answer, like every team does. Number one, the quarterback position. Obviously, Kyler's probably gone. We'll see if maybe the new head coach wants to keep him around, but it does feel like the Kyler Arizona era is probably over, and there's going to be some suitors out there for Kyler. So you're going to have to figure out the quarterback room. You also need running back help, probably some help in the receiving core. Your tackle room's not particularly great outside of obviously Paris Johnson. And then defensively speaking, you got to get a little bit better there. You got to bring back Jalen Thompson. You got to add some pass rushers, helping the linebackers, maybe another safety or corner. All in all, like, this team has some holes, but I think like surrounding some of these smaller holes, there's a lot of young, exciting talent to love on this team, assuming they can just stay healthy. Again, Paris Johnson Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride. Offensively, I know Josh Sweat is not young, but Josh Sweat is great. You have Dalvin Tomlinson. Can we get something from Darius Robinson? Obviously, your first-round pick, Walter Nolan, has looked great when healthy. Will Johnson looks good. You have Buddha, you have Jalen, you have Denzel Burke, Max Melton, a number of young corners that you're really excited about. There's a lot of young pieces here, and it's like, if I'm a head coach and I look at this team, if I say, wow, this team has this, and that, if I can just find my quarterback, I can turn this team from a 3-win team to a 8 to 9 to maybe even 10-win team within 1 or 2 seasons. If I can just hit on the right quarterback and fill out my roster the way it should be. In addition to having the obvious talent on your roster, you also have a lot of financial flexibility. Right now, you're sitting at about $20 million in cap space. You get off the Kyler Murray contract. Kyler's making like $50 or $40 million. You get off that deal, it's going to open up your cap space big time. And you also have the 3rd overall pick. So if Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza falls in your lap, you can take them. Or you have a pretty easy trade-up spot if a team doesn't want to move down too far. And even if you don't get a quarterback this year, you get a bridge quarterback for a year, maybe 1 year or 2 years. More likely 1 year, because teams don't give 2 years very often. But you can draft an Arvell Reese, you can draft a receiver, whatever, with the 3rd overall pick. You might even be able to trade back a couple spots, add up a bit more draft capital, and set yourself up nicely for the future. So I think Arizona is actually a really enticing spot. Obviously, the question is going to be, what do you want to do at coaching staff? I think getting an offensive mind, I'll say it again, I think that's probably just the right way to go. Jonathan Gannon, offensive mind, didn't really fully work out there. So I do believe that you're going to want to probably hit on this next one with maybe a bit more of an offensive mind. Again, Clint Kubiak, I think he'd be great. I think his issue with this team is you don't have a quarterback. You don't have a running back that I love. That would be an issue there. But if he wants to come in, work with Marv, work with McBride, work with Paris Johnson Jr., then yeah, that could end up working out really nicely. But here are some of the odds. This is from actionnetwork.com. I don't know where they got these numbers from, but I'll take their word for it. Mike McCarthy, Clint Kubiak, Nagy. We got John Gruden sighting. Brian Dable. I actually kind of like that. Kenny Dillingham, nice to hear his name, ASU head coach, or Arizona State head coach. Brian Flores, Minter, a couple really good names here. I actually don't hate the Mike McCarthy one. I think my issue is McCarthy's just kind of the offensive version of what they had in Jonathan Gannon. Kind of like a high floor, low ceiling type of guy. That's what I thought of Gannon at the time. That's kind of what I think of McCarthy. Again, my number one option here would be Kubiak. I think he'd be great for this offense. I don't hate the idea of Brian Dable. And I'll also throw one more. Kevin Stefanski makes a ton of sense here. Obviously, former Browns head coach. I think Stefanski would be great for this team. The question for Stefanski is just the simple question of like, do I really want to go to a team that doesn't have a quarterback? I don't know, but I don't hate the idea of Stefanski here because I think him in Arizona kind of checks a number of boxes for me. Offensive mind, established coach, has had a ton of success in the past, can build a defense, knows how to get the right OC and DCs, and I think he'd be in a better position to go after a quarterback in 27 or 26. So I like the idea of Kevin Stefanski here too. Keep an eye out for that one. But lastly, at my number one is the New York Giants. The New York Giants have the best job in football this year, and I don't think it's really all that close because the Giants have a really good roster. Like, in theory, you have your quarterback in Jackson Dart, you have your wide receiver one in Malik Neighbors, you have your RB1 in Cam Scatterbo, and you have Tyrone Tracy there too. You have your left tackle, you have pieces on your offensive line you like, you have Abdul Carter, you have Thibodeau under contract, you have Bobby Okereke, you have Dexter, you have Brian, you have Javon Holland, Paulson Adebo, and also in addition to that, you're still in the positive with your cap space, so you should be able to move around some money to grow your number. And you have a top 5 pick this year, or I think it's the 5th overall pick. You have a top 5 pick this year, which means you can add a receiver, you can add a corner, a safety, whatever you want. This team is not far away from being really competitive in the NFC East. This team way underperformed this year, had a super tough schedule. Next year's schedule is probably not going to be much lighter either. I've seen the Cowboys schedule. It's kind of difficult, but this team's not far away. Now, the one thing that does kind of frustrate me, I do believe they kept Joe Shane, unless that has changed from now, from the time that I'm recording this. I believe Shane is still in the building, which if I am a head coach, especially if I'm a top head coach that wants to bring in my guy, that could frustrate me a little bit because Joe Shane has, well, I think he's done some good things. I also think he's done a number of bad things as well. So I'm not completely opposed to him sticking around, but if I am a head coach, especially a good one that wants to fully take over the job, that could maybe be a bit of a question mark there as well. I think that this would be a job that every single head coach, every single coach out there is going to want to look at. And I think there's a number of like really good options out here as well. Like this is not just going to be a job that has 1 or 2 options. Like, no, I think this job is going to have, it's probably going to be a job that they get their guy probably within a week or 2 of, their first couple interviews. I think they're going to know who their guy is. This is from, I believe, the New York Post. Kevin Stefanski is the odds-on favorite. Jeff Hafley second, McCarthy third, Chris Shula, Lou. I don't know where they got Antonio Pierce from. That's not happening. Vance Joseph, Clint Kubiak, Jesse Minter, Cliff Kingsbury. I've also heard a lot of buzz about Marcus Freeman, which that would kind of excite me a decent bit as well. I think he'd be great for their culture. And I think he's a smart defensive mind as well. His issue is he's just going to have to transition from being a defensive guy to an offensive guy. So we'll see. I love the idea of Stefanski here. Stefanski would instantly step in, have his quarterback, have receivers, have a functional offense. In addition, having assets and things to move around with. I think he'd be great for this defense as well. Jeff Hafley, I think he'd be awesome here as well. If any defensive coach, I think would be very interested in this job, knowing that they have a Okereke, a great defensive line with a ton of talent in the secondary and a top 5 pick. Vance Joseph, I think, would do numbers for this defense. So I don't think there's a wrong way you can go here. The only wrong way to me is if you went with the safe option of like a Mike McCarthy, which for the New York Giants, you can't be safe here. Take the big, I don't want to say gamble, go for the big dog. You're the best job out there. You should not be going for the second or third best coach out there. No, go for the best guy. And whatever they think it is, I think that's what they're going to do. So I like the Giants job. But you guys let me know in the comment section below. Where would you rank these jobs? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know in the comment section below. And guys, we're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. So if you're new, hit that like and subscribe button. And I love you guys. Peace.